The censorship apocalypse is here, and it's coming for everyone. Yes, even you. I've spent most of my life indifferent about free speech, honestly. I didn't think much of it until COVID, when words like misinformation and disinformation entered the chat. Or silenced it. But then, we all kind of thought we were saved. Elon bought X, Trump was reelected, Zuck admitted to the weird government censorship thing, and it kind of felt like everyone agreed to say, like, oh, we're not going to do that anymore, back to our regularly declared rights. But here we are. Pam Bondi has tossed around the phrase,
there's free speech and then there's hate speech.
Kash Patel has said that he will work with Congress on Section 230 anytime. TikTok has changed hands and people are seeing posts already disappear, all while we're watching the rest of the world's censorship accelerate at an alarming rate. So what does this mean? What do we do? I reached out to constitutional lawyer and censorship apocalypse expert and YouTuber Benjamin Barr for answers. I needed to understand, do we even actually have free speech?
There are narrow, well-defined exceptions about what can be punished. So true threats, serious expression of an intent to harm. You, Olivia, go kill that policeman right now. That would be outside of the First Amendment. But I could say something like, Olivia, I hate police officers. Wouldn't it be great if they all died? You can get really close to that line, but you can't do a direct threat of actually wanting to take a physical act right now. Incitement, imminent lawless action. Burn down that courthouse right now, people. And then people go in and do that. We don't allow that. But you can state an opinion that's really close to it. I think all judges are awful. And, you distance that. Someday we should burn down these false halls of justice in America. You could say something to that effect.
So we do have limits on speech, but they are narrow and well-defined. That's the genius of the First Amendment. It's that it protects speech we love and speech we hate, speech we agree with, and speech that makes our blood boil. That's the whole point. But here's the problem. Just because we have the First Amendment, it doesn't mean that powerful people actually want us to have it. But they can't just repeal it. That would be too obvious. So instead, they're trying to subvert it in creative ways. Benjamin called these zombie hate speech laws, laws that won't die and keep coming back.
There's a California bill that's been pending that wants to hold social media companies accountable if they amplify threatening content. And nobody knows what threatening content is. So, and we have enough American examples, certainly enough international examples to be worried about that. Is it, I have an opinion that's different about a COVID vaccine? Is that threatening material? And that might be. I have an opinion that's different than what most people in my state think about gun safety or gun control. That could be seen as threatening. A whole host of triggers. It's a really bad law.
Luckily, for the first time maybe in his life, Gavin Newsom did the right thing and he vetoed that bill. But, like Benjamin says, these laws just keep popping up all over the place. And what's important to note about that bill, SB 771, is that word threatening. It is incredibly subjective. What's threatening to the government might be the truth to you.
There's a lot going on with anti-Semitism, and that gets really dicey and really difficult. Congress has the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act from 2023. It came back up again in 2025. And you have to be really careful about how you define what anti-Semitism is, or if you can even define it. Does it mean that I criticize Israel? Does it mean that I called for harm to someone of Jewish descent? And in general, in America, we allow free expression of opinion. So you can call me a Zionist, I can call you an anti-Semite, you can call me a Nazi, I can call you a communist, whatever. Do you really want guys in black robes policing that, like a kindergarten teacher? Probably not. Probably not a good way to run it. Yeah, a society.
And these zombie laws aren't just sitting in Congress. They're spreading to your state.
California, they want an anti-Semitism prevention coordination, and they want to stop anti-Semitism in schools before it occurs. And I think that's limiting like what students can say, ideas that can be expressed. That's really dangerous, really nutty.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's a very top-down sort of we know the right ideas, the lay people don't, so we better decide them. That's nanny state weird stuff. Michigan's, they want to change their civil rights law to include that if you have Holocaust denial or harsh criticism of Israel, that that may be deemed a hateful conduct that you could come after. Now, I think it's ignorant and stupid to have a position about Holocaust denial, but it's far worse to shut that speech down and to make those people more radical and more dangerous. I'd rather know who the Holocaust deniers are, and I'd like to see them out in the open light. And true to what Madison said, even more recently, Martin Luther King, you combat bad ideas with better ideas. You combat hate with light and with love and with compassion.
I know what you're thinking. I don't post crazy stuff online. This isn't going to affect me. But that's exactly how censorship wins, by convincing you that it's always for someone else, for something worse than what you would say. Until suddenly, it's not. And if we want to see where this leads, let's take a look overseas.
Here's one from Scotland that was Count Dankula. He was a YouTuber from Scotland, and he taught his girlfriend's little pug dog how to do a Nazi salute. He had the police show up. He got dragged off. He went to court. He had to pay something like close to £1,000 fine, something to that effect. That sort of thing happens with some frequency in countries that don't have that vibrant and robust respect for free speech.
It started as a joke and ended in criminal charges. The UK arrested over 13,000 people last year for social media posts. That is insane. And before you think, oh, that's the UK, that'll never be us, we have already seen censorship here domestically. Conservative voices were suppressed for years, even deplatformed. And now liberal voices are facing consequences too. Here's the problem. When your side gets the power to silence them, it feels like justice. But when their side gets the power, it feels like tyranny. But it's the same power. So before you cheer censorship for people you hate, ask yourself this one question.
I always try to tell people pick the president you hate the most, pick the bureaucrat you hate the most, and ask them, would you give them this power to decide truth, to punish people for, and if you can't trust it with the worst politician, the worst president you'd imagine, maybe it's Joe Biden, maybe it's Donald Trump, however your political ideologies may lie, then it's probably not a good idea, folks.
That test, imagining your worst enemy with this power, cuts through all the partisan BS. But here's the harder truth. This isn't a problem that we solve once and move on. This is permanent. So does that mean we're just stuck like this forever?
We go through these punctuated periods in history, and I think it's the most natural thing, unfortunately, for human beings. We get scared about particular threats or ideas, and we want to clamp them down. And a lot of people are sort of fair weather First Amendment friends. You'd say, I support the First Amendment, except for, and they have their exception. So I'm the nutty guy who believes that generally, most of the time, almost everywhere, free speech should rule out. And I expect also that the battle, if you look historically, it will never stop. It'll come from different ideological quarters. I think the right is a little bit better on free speech now than the left right now. I wouldn't say that to necessarily be true 10 years from now. Don't know that.
So if power always threatens speech, regardless of who holds it, what's the solution?
A speech that Justice Scalia had when he was alive, and he said, you want great free speech. You should check out the Soviet Union's constitution. You think our First Amendment's great? Their amendment for protecting free speech is amazing. He goes, but it's all false. Parchment is not as important as culture.
Stop and think about what that really means. We could have the most perfect free speech laws ever written, but if we, regular people, don't actually use them, don't defend them when it's uncomfortable, Don't push back when we see overreach. Then those laws are just words on dusty old paper. Culture beats laws every time.
Reclaiming that culture where we support free speech, where we have in Skokie, a Jewish lawyer goes in to defend the neo-Nazis and says, I hate, as Voltaire said, I hate the very notion of what you advocate for, but I will die defending your right to speak. That's what we need in America. And we'll get to good results, and they won't be all Ben Barr's preferred results. They won't be all Olivia's preferred results, but we'll
Right.
get there. And we have to have that transcendent hope and that transcendent belief in our common man. And the battle now is really, it's a little bit in the courts and it's a lot in the culture.
The First Amendment has survived for over 200 years, not because the government protects it, but because people like us demand it be protected. And what does that look like? Attend your city council meeting when they discuss online safety ordinances. Speak up when your workplace tries to police speech beyond what's legal. Support creators and platforms who refuse to over-censor. And most importantly, refuse to stay silent when speech you hate starts getting suppressed, because that same tool will be used against speech you love. Benjamin fights these battles in the courtroom and on his own YouTube channel, and we fight them in our communities, online, and in our daily choices about whether to speak or to stay silent. Censorship wins when good people decide that their voice doesn't matter. Don't let that be you.